Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In today's video we're going to be reviewing Cyberdimension Neptunia for Goddesses Online. The game is by Idea Factory / Compile Heart along with the help of Tamsoft and was released for the PC in 2018. So, a Neptunia game about a game within a game. But is the game within a game any good? Let's find out. The game's story is based around Neptune and the group basically joining Vert in her beta testing of the latest release of the MMO For Goddesses Online. Neptune and the gang are all testing the latest release of For Goddesses Online before it's officially released. Now the story itself is kind of complicated because the game is and isn't a spin-off series. To explain more, the game basically continues from the main series plot up to the end of Neptunia 7/Victory 2, but then for some reason this game decides to be a spin-off series and separates itself from the main series itself. Now I don't really understand that because while you play this game you meet Plutia, you meet Pico, you meet all the other characters from the past previous Neptune games, and you are mentioned events that have happened to them previously, such as Nepgear saying that she was the main protagonist in Neptunia 2, but then this game is apparently a branch-off series which has nothing to do with the main series. I don't really understand why Idea Factory did that and why this couldn't just be an add-on to the main series story, because it doesn't actually affect the real world or anything, because this is just the characters playing an MMO online together. But anyway, the story involves the 4 CPUs logging in and creating characters based upon themselves, and upon starting the game, they meet Bouquet, who basically tells them that they are the chosen ones and they must help resurrect the 4 fallen goddesses and save Asgard from the Demon King. As the game's story progresses, you meet the CPU candidates and travel the rest of Asgard. As you travel around the world, you will also find relics in various dungeons, which are needed to awaken the 4 goddesses, who, surprise surprise, turn out to be the 4 CPUs themselves, but in goddess form. It's a simple enough story with various side quests along the way, and it'll have you meeting various characters from past Neptunia games. And obviously because it is a Neptunia game, expect the same sense of humour that you're used to from the past previous games, so expect fun times and happy smiles. The game's characters themselves are rather short compared to past Neptunia games. What I mean by this is that the characters that you can actually play as in this is quite short, because realistically all you get to play as in this game are the 4 main CPUs themselves and the 4 CPU candidates. And that's it. Much later on in the game, you can play as the 4 goddesses themselves, but that is essentially it. No Compa, no IF, no Histoire, no Uzume, and no one else. It just feels a tad odd without being able to play as the other characters from past Neptunia games. I mean, they went through all the effort of putting Plutia in the game. I fail to understand why I can't actually play as her. The other characters do make an appearance in the game, such as Pishi and Plutia herself, but they're working at a clothes store, and IF and Compa are also working at an item store at the same time. So while you're travelling around the world, you will meet other characters like Uzume and Weruchu and a whole host of other characters from past games, but you don't get to actually play as them. It just feels a tad hollow character-wise. The characters that you do meet, however, are their usual past selves from the previous Neptunia games. But they're all doing their own thing, since essentially they're also beta testers for the game itself as well. So Uzume is playing on her own, for example, and will not join the group, and Tamsoft herself is also busy working at the weapons factory, so she also doesn't join the group, and so forth and so forth. The characters you do get to play as do have lots of interactions between each other, but it would have just been nice if they had added more playable characters to the game. You can change how your characters look with a whole load of wardrobe options, but at the end of the day, considering how much the game was being hyped over with using the new Unreal Engine, I was expecting more choice than just the main 8 characters with the new goddesses thrown in near the end. It is a Neptunia game, I was expecting a ton of characters to play as. Just giving me the main 8 characters with then the 4 goddesses at the end just doesn't really feel like a Neptune game. Let's talk about the game's gameplay. I'm going to assume that anyone who has played an MMO before knows exactly what to expect here. It is your usual MMO style of gameplay, but perhaps maybe a bit simplified. I myself haven't had much experience with MMOs, as they're just not really my thing. I have played a few, but not many. But compared to the ones that I have played, and then I've played this game does feel a tad simplified in comparison. What I mean by this is that you have your usual main menu, which has skills, items, abilities, and everything else. But when it comes down to the game's actual combat system, it's basically just spam the X button. You can attack with a few skill moves, but realistically it just comes down to how much you can spam the X button for attack. And that's kind of it. X attacks, well, you then have the choice of around 8 special moves which you can then do, but they all kind of come across as rather samey. You get a few individual moves per character, but most of the characters end up being able to do the same moves eventually, such as Fire Tornado, Ice Tornado, Wind Tornado, and you get the idea where I'm heading with this. Combat itself does also become rather repetitive, if I'm being honest. A lot of the time you run around the dungeons and attack enemies by just pressing the X button, or by using skills constantly to defeat them. You run around the dungeon more, you fight enemies more, you run around the dungeon more, and repeat. And because everything combat-wise feels so limited, it just starts to feel rather tedious quite quickly. You can run around and jump in the stages, and combat itself is instant, unlike the previous Neptunia games. This isn't a turn-based combat system, but more like what an actual MMO is. And that combat happens the second you're close enough to an enemy that the enemy sees you and then attacks, or when you attack them. Because of this, however, it also means you cannot pause at all during the game, which is rather annoying. For example, if I'm playing with a group of people and we're in combat and I press the start button to bring up the menu screen, everything still happens around me. The game isn't paused and I will still be attacked, and as I'm sure you're all guessing right now, yes, that does get quite annoying very quickly. I do understand that the game is meant to be like an MMO, but for offline mode it would have been nice if there was an actual option to have a pause button for offline mode. While playing online and playing with a group of people, I can understand why the game wouldn't pause, because obviously you can't pause a game and then the game would pause for everyone else, because that just wouldn't work. I'm just simply saying that it would have been nice that if I was playing the game in offline mode, it would have been nice to have had a pause option. Appearance-wise, the graphics could possibly be the best they have ever been, because they're now using the new Unreal Engine for this title. Everything looks bright and colourful, and is presented in full HD at 60 frames per second, and runs super smoothly. You will, however, need a decent graphics card to run this, since it is using the Unreal Engine, and I myself found that my GTX 670 would struggle in a few places here and there while playing. However, my GTX 970 ran this perfectly, without any issues whatsoever. The store page does recommend a card of at least a GTX 660 as a minimum. I'm not exactly sure how lower end cards might fare against this, and I'm not sure if they'll be able to actually play it or not. I think that considering that my GTX 670 was having a few issues in places here and there, that if you're running anything lower than the GTX 60, it might be best to upgrade to a better card if you want the best experience you can possibly get from this game graphics wise. Everything about the game just looks beautiful, and this is thanks down to the Unreal Engine. The character models look fantastic and move smoothly, and look the best that they've ever done, while all the stages themselves are beautifully well rendered in 60 frames per second. And even in darker dungeons, they come across as really well represented thanks to the Unreal Engine, and everything just comes across really colourful. Appearance wise, I don't think you could ask for anything better. The game just comes across as really beautiful, and the world just looks really amazing. The Unreal Engine really does push the Neptunia series to its best appearance wise. The only downfall that I would have to say about the game's graphics is that realistically you do need a decent graphics card to get the most out of this game. But aside from that, expect the best looking Neptunia game you're going to come across. The world of Asgard is extremely beautiful and amazingly well created. You really do feel as if you're actually playing an MMO, with loads of dungeons to choose from, and they're all ranging in different styles as well, ranging from mountain volcanoes, to open fields, to woods, and many more. There's a whole different mix of levels to explore, with each one being different from the last, and they also come across as beautifully well created thanks to the Unreal Engine. You have the main city where you accept quests and meet others, while you also stock up on items and various other things, while also exploring each new area that opens up to you from the main story itself as the game progresses. While in the main city, you're given various side quests from other characters, such as Plutia, R4 and various others. You'll then head over to the guild and accept these quests and then go out and complete them, and you will then return for a reward. So basically, it's just like a real MMO where you join a guild group, you go out and do quests, and you will come back. And speaking of quests, you have various quests throughout the game, but each quest seems to keep sending you to the same location time and time again, just to complete that one quest. So for example, the game could send you to Logie Mountain to do the main story, but then because of all the various skill side quests you end up doing throughout the game, you could end up returning to that exact same place 20 to 30 times just to collect one item, or to climb the entire mountain just to defeat that area's main boss for the 20th to 30th time. It does get rather repetitive quite quickly, and it does feel as if the game's making you redo areas constantly, and it kind of feels like it's doing it just to flesh the game's story out. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, as I understand that some MMOs do actually make you do this, but it just feels like yet another repetitive thing. So, the main question for any Neptunia fan here is, should I buy this game? It's a hard one because on the one hand I want to say yes, but on the other hand I also say no. To start with, I'm not a massive MMO fan, but I do love the Neptunia series, which is why I got this game. Yet upon getting this game, I feel it kind of feels like a really simplified MMO, with limited options and with very repetitive gameplay mechanics. You get a limited choice of characters, and while that's okay, I was disappointed to find that they all have limited movesets as well, and that combat is rather simple. The PC version of the game also suffers greatly, because the game is titled Four Goddesses Online, with the whole point about the game being the online feature, and that you can play with others online. Yet the PC version just doesn't work as an online game, and it's totally broken. When you try to play the PC port of this game online, what happens is one of the following. 1. You're lucky to find anyone. 2. If you do find someone, the lobby generally crashes. 3. If you actually get a game started, after about 5 minutes everyone gets kicked. Or 4. If you are able to actually get a game together and everything sort of seems okay, everything will run slow for everyone else and lag like crazy aside from the host, and then after about 10 minutes everyone will get kicked. Now, I myself have fibre broadband, and I tried making a lobby with some random people that I met. Now, even though I have fibre broadband and I was hosting the entire game, it just basically fell to pieces. Yet, this doesn't happen when you're on the console port of the game. In fact, the console port of the game has an online mode which works. So why doesn't it work on the PC? I have heard some people say that the console version of the game also has these same problems that the PC version has, and that the online feature just doesn't work. Yet, I played my friend's version of this game on his PlayStation 4, and I played the online version for about 4 to 5 hours, and guess what? Everything worked. Yet, when I try the exact same thing on my PC version, everything crashes after about 5 minutes, and that's if I can even get a lobby started. It's just a massive disappointment that the game goes on about Four Goddesses Online, yet the whole online feature itself doesn't actually work for the PC release. Now, it's been quite a few months that this game came out, and Idea Factory still haven't fixed the issue, and I honestly don't know why. Now, I don't want to downtrodden the game because the game itself does have its good points, as it's got the usual Neptunia humour, and it's still present here in the game itself. And it does feel as if it carries on from the last game, even though this story is technically a spin-off. To me, it still kind of feels like it's part of the main story itself, which is something I quite like. The characters interact between each other very well, and everything is created beautifully thanks to the Unreal Engine. But then again, because the game's limited in options and combat and everything else, it does just feel rather repetitive, and it does come across as feeling like a chore to play at times, and I really do hate to say that, because I do love the Neptunia series, but I found myself playing this game and I just kept thinking time and time again, I'm not enjoying this game as much as I should do. I do love the Neptunia series, and it is a brilliant idea of a game within a game about a game, but then the payoff itself is seriously hit and miss with this title. I really do love the Neptunia series, but several times when I've been playing the game, I really did just feel like I'm not enjoying it as I should be doing. And sadly, I just kept feeling that constantly about this game. If you are a Neptunia fan and you want to get this game, then I realistically would suggest that you get it on the PlayStation 4 if you have that console, because at least then online mode will work and you can actually get a team together, unlike what the PC release is. It is an okay game, which looks beautiful, but when it comes down to it, it's just an okay game, with rather a few problems that don't appear to be getting sorted out anytime soon. If you do want to buy this game, then I would suggest you wait until it's on sale, because at full price, PC release just isn't worth it. I myself originally saw that when the game was being released, I thought, oh great, another Neptunia game, I love Neptunia, ka-ching, bought that right away. And then I didn't play it for a while because I waited because I wanted to make sure all the bugs had been worked out. And then when I did play it, I found I just didn't get the same enjoyment out of this as I did, say, something like Rebirth 1, 2 or 3. The game is an okay game, but that's it. It's an okay game. With an online mode, doesn't work. So if you are going to buy this game, buy it on the PlayStation 4, where online mode at least works. Well, that's it for this review guys. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.